try to write the substance of that poem and also the critical note to that poem. So in our yesterday's class, um, I was talking about uh, how to write the substance of a poem and also to how to write the critical note of a poem. Now today we will take up for our discussion this particular poem by the American poet Robert Frost. Now you may have heard of Robert Frost. You will have one of his poems, Apple Picking, After Apple Picking, in your syllabus later on when you study American literature. Later on in your, I think that would be in your fourth sem syllabus. So now, this poem is a very short poem, about 9 lines in length, but it is a very significant poem and one of his most famous poems. And this is titled Fire and Ice. So let us look at this poem first. Let us look at the title and uh, read the poem. So the poem is titled Fire and Ice. And obviously, fire and ice are symbolical here. So fire does not, what does fire do? It gives out warmth or it burns, it destroys. And ice freezes everything. So there is an extreme cold sensation. So let us read this poem. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. So here is the poem, and we have to write the substance of this poem. So in order to do that, we have to read the poem 1 or 2 times, and we have to try to understand the meaning of this poem. So some say the world will end in fire. So here, obviously, the poet is talking about uh, fire in a symbolical sense. Fire is a symbol of something. It stands for something. It is not just a literal fire that is burning and destroying things. So actually, fire is, it means uncontrolled desire. So some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So fire is the fire of desire. So people's desire, which has no bounds. So it is always rising and it is always there. People are not happy with what they are getting, and they always want to get more and more things. So this is one of the interpretations of uh, fire, the word fire that is used here. So some say, so the poet is saying that there are some people who say that the world will come to an end, the world will be destroyed in fire. Some say in ice. So we understand the meaning of the word fire, that it means uncontrolled desires of human beings. So what does ice mean here? It does not mean the literal ice, but it means uh, hatred and indifference. So unsympathetical, unsympathetic behavior towards others and hatred towards others. So cold behavior. Ice, as you all know, it emanates something very cold. Obviously, ice is cold to touch and it has a freezing sensation. So, likewise, here the poet is referring to ice, and he means actually the cold behavior of people towards each other. So it is actually kind of the human emotion which is so very destructive. So both these human feelings or emotions are very destructive. They are not positive emotions. Some say in ice. So there are some people who say that it will end in fire, and some say that in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So the poet is saying here that what I have tasted of desire here means that he has experienced. His experience tells him that there is a very big possibility that the world will end in fire. That is the uncontrolled desires of human beings, which would not be fulfilled or satisfied, and it would ultimately destroy the world. So I hold with those, meaning I agree with those who favor fire. It is the American spelling. It should be FAVOUR in the English British spelling. Okay, well, so I think you have understood the first four lines of this poem. Now let us move on to the fifth line. But if it had to perish twice. So the poet is saying that if it perishes only once, then I am quite sure that it will reach its end, or it will come to an end because of the uncontrolled desires of human beings, the destructive emotions. But if it has to perish twice, if it's going to be destroyed twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So he's saying that I have seen enough hate among human beings. So that is something, that is a kind of a quality which is also a potential quality for the destruction of the world. So, along with fire, ice is also a potential reason for destroying the world. So, what does ice mean here? It means hatred and indifference, not being sympathetic towards people, not helping others. So it is both these emotions, these feelings, both represented by fire and ice, they are negative emotions, destructive and negative emotions. So he knows enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So ice would also suffice. It would be enough to destroy the world if it were to be destroyed twice. So this is the meaning of this poem. Now that you have grasped the meaning of this poem, though it is a short poem, as you can see, it has a very deep significance. Now, in order to write the substance of this poem, we have to obviously, we have to write like this. So I will sort of dictate this, and while writing the critical appreciation or the critical note, I have got it here, so I'll show you. But you can, I'll just dictate this. You can write down in your exercise books if you want, or just you can listen to me. So the substance of this poem should be something like this. The poet begins by mentioning two popular beliefs. So the poet, you need not mention the name of the poet. Though if you have read the poem, sometimes if it is, for example, if you have read a sonnet by Shakespeare and you recognize that sonnet, you may say that it is like it's a Shakespearean sonnet. So you might refer to the name if you recognize the poem. The poet begins by mentioning two popular beliefs regarding the end of the world. So how the world will come to an end. Regarding the end of the world, full stop. Some people think that the world will end in fire, comma. So some people think that the world will end in fire. Uh, as I had told you yesterday, that while writing the substance, you need not add anything extraneous or external, any outside ideas to the substance. Just stick to the to what has been said by the poet in this in the poems. Comma, while others believe it will end in ice. While others believe it will end in ice. Full stop. So this is the second sentence. Next comes based on his understanding of human nature. Based on his understanding of human nature, comma, based on his understanding of human nature, comma, the poet agrees with those, the poet agrees with those who favor, the poet agrees with those who favor fire because he associates it with desire, comma, which he considers highly destructive, full stop. So based on his understanding of human nature, comma, Frost agrees with those who favor fire because he associates it with desire, comma, which he considers highly destructive, full stop. However, comma, he also believes, that if the world were to perish, a second time, if the world were to perish, or you can use a different word, if the world were to be destroyed, as the word perish has been used by Frost. If the world were to be destroyed a second time, comma, ice would be equally effective. Ice would be equally effective because hatred and indifference are powerful enough. Because hatred and indifference are powerful enough to cause destruction. Full stop. Hatred and indifference are powerful enough to cause destruction. Full stop. Thus, comma, the poet concludes that either fire or ice could bring about the end of the world. Either fire or ice could bring about the end of the world. Full stop. Thus, comma, the poet concludes that either fire or ice could bring about the end of the world. So this is the substance of the poem, and we have tried to keep the the kind of language that has been used here in the poem, and we have mentioned, because it is a very short poem, we have not sort of excluded anything. uh, we have incorporated all the feelings or emotions that were expressed by the poet in this short poem. So this is the poem, and rather the substance of the poem. Now, if we were to write the title, the critical note to this poem, then what we have to do, just look at this critical appreciation or critical note of fire and ice. So let us look at the introduction. So we have to take into account all the particular sections which we saw yesterday. So first we should start like this. Fire and Ice is a short but profound poem by the American poet Robert Frost. You might not mention the exact year of publication. You can omit that if you do not remember. It is not important to mention the date or the year. You can just write the poem reflects on the possible destruction of the world through two powerful forces, colon, fire and ice. Though only 9 lines long, comma, it explores deep philosophical ideas about human emotions and their destructive potential. Full stop. The poet, if you don't want to mention the name of the poet, you can say just the poet. You might not uh, write Frost. The poet uses simple language, comma, symbolism, and irony to convey a universal truth about human nature. So the title, you need not mention like this, title, theme, like this, but just make short paragraphs while you are taking up different points when writing the critical note of the poem, of any poem. You have to make different paragraphs as you take up the title, the theme, like that. The title Fire and Ice is highly significant and symbolic. The two words refer not merely to physical elements, but to destructive human emotions. Fire symbolizes desire, passion, greed, and uncontrolled ambition, while ice symbolizes hatred, indifference, and cruelty. The title immediately introduces the central conflict and theme of the poem. So this is the note on the title of the poem. Next, we go to the theme or the central idea. The central theme of the poem is the destructive power of human emotions. The poet suggests that excessive desire and intense hatred are equally capable of bringing ruin to individuals and society. The poem presents a philosophical reflection on human nature and warns against allowing passions and negative emotions to dominate life. Another important theme is the possibility of self destruction. The poet implies that humanity's greatest danger comes not from external forces but from its own emotions and weaknesses. So, this is the central theme, and you have to mention that after talking about the title. The third part is the substance, which of course we have written. So you need not write this in your critical note. Now you move on to the tone and mood of the poem. The tone of the poem is thoughtful, reflective, and philosophical. The poet examines a serious subject in a calm and controlled manner. There is also a touch of irony in the way he discusses the destruction of the world through everyday human emotions. So here, obviously, the tone of the poem. How is uh, the poet Robert Frost talking about these human emotions? Is he talking about in a very agitated or angry manner? No, that's not the tone. But it is thoughtful, reflective, and philosophical. So he is pondering, he is in a very thoughtful mood, reflective mood. He is thinking about all these things, just like a philosopher. So he is examining a very serious subject, that is the destruction of the world, how the destruction of the world will come about in a very calm and controlled manner. There is also a touch of irony in the way he discusses the destruction of the world through everyday human emotions. So he is very much sure about how the world will come to an end, either through fire or through ice, or if it is going to be destroyed twice, uh, both these uh, agencies or agents would be at work. The mood is contemplative and somewhat somber. So there is a serious mood. The poet is in a serious mood. He is thinking. The reader is encouraged to reflect on the consequences of unchecked desire and hatred. So by bringing these two negative emotions to the reader's notice, what the poet is trying to do, of course, he is encouraging them to reflect, is encouraging us to reflect on the negative, sort of impact that these would exercise, desire and hatred. Now that we have talked about the mood and tone of the poem, we have to look into the imagery and symbolism. Now, the imagery and symbolism, the poem employs simple yet powerful imagery. So, the first image is of fire, as obviously we can see. Now, what does fire symbolize? It symbolizes desire, passion, greed, lust, ambition, and uncontrolled craving. So, all these uh, things, negative things, are symbolized by the simple and single word fire. So, fire does not simply mean fire, that is burning in the hearth or anywhere else, but it has a far greater and deeper significance. Now, what does ice symbolize? It symbolizes hatred, coldness, indifference, cruelty, and emotional detachment. So, all these things, like fire, ice also symbolizes hatred, coldness, indifference, cruelty, and emotional detachment. So, all these things are negative qualities. People are, always, sometimes uh, people show these qualities towards their fellow beings. They hate each other, they appear very cold, indifferent, they are cruel to their fellow beings, and they show a kind of an emotional detachment. They do not respond to the suffering of their fellow creatures. The end of the world. Now comes this particular phrase, the end of the world. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes the ultimate consequence or consequences of human weakness and moral failure. So, what would be the ultimate result? It would be the end of the world or the erosion of all human values, you can say, like this. So the end of the world might not end in a physical sense. It might continue, but uh, uh, all kinds of, good emotions, virtues, feelings would die, would be uh, blotted out. So that would be also a kind of a dying or a destruction. So here it is a kind of a image or symbol. So these symbols are there, and the poet is transforming a discussion about cosmic destruction into a meditation on human psychology. So he's in a philosophical mood, and he's discussing these vital questions. So here we are talking about, or we looked at the imagery and symbolism. So in other poems also we have to follow the same pattern. Now, figures of speech. This is a very short poem, and it is easy to look at the or find out the figures of speech. So symbolism, of course, is there, fire and ice, that we have explained. What do they symbolize? They are not just physical fire or physical ice, which may burn you or might freeze your fingers, not like that, but they have other significances. Metaphor, fire and ice function as metaphors for human passions and hatreds. So metaphor, as you know, it is an indirect comparison. Simile is a direct comparison with the words as or like, but metaphor is an indirect comparison. So here, the poet uses metaphor, the figure of speech of metaphor. Antithesis, obviously, the use of two contrasting elements, fire and ice. And here, these two elements are exactly the opposite of each other. So the poet here uses these elements to highlight two contrasting emotions. Alliteration. Alliteration is also another figure of speech which you can find out easily. So there are examples of alliteration that enhance the musical quality of the poem. So the repetition of the same consonant. Irony is there. The poet ironically suggests that ordinary human emotions may be powerful enough to destroy the entire world. So these are emotions which we harbor within our hearts. We are often indifferent. We often want things. Even though we have certain things, we still want more and more things, and that our desire becomes at one point uncontrolled desire. So all these things are there, but if they reach a certain point, or if they cross a limit, then obviously they become uncontrolled and they have the potentiality to destroy the world. So here, of course, we have looked at the figures of speech. As this is a small poem, a very short poem, only 9 lines, we could find out the figures of speech easily. In a longer poem, uh, try to find out the similes, metaphors, personifications, antithesis, which are the common, uh, figures of speeches used in poems by the poets. So try to do that in other poems. We will later on, in my later classes, I will discuss other poems also. So uh, we will look at some longer poems also. So now let us look at diction and style. Diction and style, as you know, the language, the kind of words used by the poet. Robert Frost's language is remarkably simple and conversational. So the poem, when we read the poem, we saw that it was extremely easy to understand. The language or the words that were employed were very easy to understand. They were simple. And he's talking about these problems, these serious problems, in a very conversational way, as if he's talking to a friend. Like that, he's addressing the reader in a friendly tone. So he avoids complex vocabulary and elaborate descriptions. So there are no complex big words here. All the words are simple, and there are no elaborate descriptions as you might find in some poems. So this simplicity makes the poem accessible to all readers. So what it does, the kind of diction that is used, the style that is used by the poet, here obviously he would be able to reach more and more readers, and they would be able to understand. They would be able to take in the message. So the poem is reachable. It is very much, it can touch the hearts of the readers. And the philosophical ideas that are there, they are being explained in a very simple fashion. So no big philosophical statements or high sounding, words or phrases that are used by the poet. So it is a very simple and conversational style. So style is concise, direct, and economical. So simple words, uh, as far as possible, the poet uses very short words and in a very economical way. He is not going to use words which are, which might look to be exaggerations. So nothing exaggerated is here. So each word is needed in the poem. So every word contributes to the poem's meaning. So nothing is superfluous, as we say, Bharti, as it is called in Bengali. So nothing is superfluous. Each and every word helps to build up the meaning. The poet demonstrates how profound truths can be expressed through ordinary language. So here, this is a kind of a poem where you will be able to find, or you will find the readers, how serious ideas, and profound truths, what the poet is engaged in sort of communicating to us, the readers, is of course, he is talking about profound truths. And he is uh, sort of communicating or conveying that message in a very ordinary language, very simple and ordinary, and which everyone can understand. So this is the style, the diction. So you have to take up each, but do not make these headings. এই heading গুলো দেবে না, এই যে এখানে heading গুলো দেয়া রয়েছে, do not give these headings. Just make short paragraphs and write. But when you write about a different aspect, you make a paragraph. So the examiner will understand that you are talking about a different thing. First, you talked about the theme, then about the figures of speech, like that. এখানে যেরকম ভাবে একটা রয়েছে, সাবস্টেন্স লেখার দরকার নেই. So you have already written the substance. Now we are coming to the end of this particular critical note. So message of the poem. The poem conveys the message that both desire and hatred can be destructive when allowed to grow without control. So you have to say, uh, a poet always has a kind of a message. When he or she is writing a poem, obviously he is writing for other people. It's not that he is going to read his own poem in a closed room. He is of course going to publish that poem, or at least show it to his friends, family members, uh, to some people. So obviously he has a message. And what is this message here? It is a very serious message that both desire and hatred can have detrimental effects if they become uncontrolled. So human beings must learn moderation, self-discipline, and emotional balance. So these are very important in our lives. These qualities, we have to be moderate in whatever we do. We should not indulge in anything excessive that would overthrow the balance. And self-discipline, that is very important. Obviously we have to be self-disciplined, otherwise no progress can be achieved. Emotional balance is of course there. The poet warns that negative emotions can destroy relationships, societies, and even civilization itself. So it can, from the individual level to the higher universal level, it will have so much, bad or evil effect that it will perhaps destroy whole civilizations, destruction of the world, as it is called in the poem. So the poet also reminds us, that is the readers, the greatest threats uh, often arise from within human nature rather than from external forces. So we talk about the natural calamities like earthquake or flood, or nuclear explosion, or anything like that, the uh, third world war, or anything like that, that will lead to the destruction of the world. But we do not give equal importance to the fact that apart from these external forces, destruction can come from within us. from within human nature. So that is something that Frost is pointing out here. He's sort of asking us to pay attention to this particular aspect. So now, last part, in your critical note, you will, if it is possible, if you have understood the poem well, you will sort of give your own opinion, your personal evaluation. So you will say that Fire and Ice is a masterpiece of brevity and depth. It has only 9 lines, but the poet presents a profound insight into human behavior and moral responsibility. So within these short 9 lines, the poet has done wonders. He has sort of packed in so much. There's a profound insight into human behavior. We can see that, and moral responsibility. So he has understood. He has really touched upon the main problem which beset human beings. The poem's symbolism, simplicity, and philosophical significance make it memorable and thought provoking. So, philosophical significance, obviously, there is much philosophical significance here. It is a memorable short poem. Among all the short poems that have been written, it has a very powerful message, and it provokes a lot of, contemplation or thought. We feel like thinking about this, what the poet has told us. Its universal message remains relevant in every age, obviously. Frost wrote this poem, uh,
हेलो
quite some time ago.
ठीक है जी तो
Hello, please mute yourself. So, Frost wrote this poem long time back, but now in the 21st century, you know, uh, it is still very relevant, and I think you will agree with me when, with the poet, that it will be relevant 50 years from now on. So, when you people will become uh, old men and women. So you will remember that what Robert Frost had said in his poem, maybe 100 years back. So it will be relevant because human beings, they would be like this. There would be people who would be sort of destroying the world by their negative emotions. So it is very much there. And human society will continue to struggle with greed, hatred, and intolerance. So you can make a comment to this fashion in this way. So Fire and Ice is a concise yet powerful poem. That is the conclusion that you can draw, that explores the destructive potential of desire and hatred, the potential that hatred and desire has. So, through vivid symbolism, simple language, and profound reflection, the poet creates a timeless work that encourages readers to examine their own emotions and recognize the importance of self control and moderation. Self control and moderation, that is emphasized. The poem stands as one of the finest examples of Frost's ability to combine simplicity with philosophical depth. So you can write the critical note or the critical appreciation of the poems in this way. Just follow these pattern, and you can in short, because you cannot just go on writing, just mention these points in a brief way, and the more you can give your own opinion, your own critical opinion in the you know critical note part, the more it will be uh, good for you. So in this class I have discussed this poem. uh, Tomorrow most probably I'll be able to take another class with you, and that would be I think at 1 p.m. Today actually I have some work to do, that is why I brought this class to 11. So we will be having online classes now. So next day, that is tomorrow, Wednesday, I will take up another poem, and we will discuss that poem also, how to write the substance of that poem and write the critical note. So that poem would be a bit bigger, a bit longer. This is a short poem, just as a way of beginning. I took this poem because this is a very, famous poem by Robert Frost.